Hey, welcome back to our live broadcast. It's Mark Schultz with DigitalAircraft. And if you've been following, you know that we've been doing a 24-episode series in Blockchain in Aviation. And it turns out that today is our last series, and we have a very interesting topic that we'll be focusing on today. It's about the future of blockchain. So why wouldn't it be a natural progression to start out at the basics and take a look at all the different companies and the things that they're doing out there, and then do some discussion about how do we know where blockchain is going in the future. So today I brought in a guest with a tremendous amount of experience in this area. And it's Horst Treiblmaier. And Horst is currently a professor, a full professor at the International Management at Modul University in Vienna. And actually his background is that he's worked in blockchain and Web3 technologies. He has a history in cryptocurrencies, technology, and he started out by doing marketing and e-commerce, which gave him a really good understanding of industry and the challenges that we face. And his passion brought him to bringing that into blockchain. And then now what he does of helping people to understand where we're going in the future. Let me go ahead and just bring him right in, and I'll introduce him to you, and we'll start this conversation. Good morning, Horst.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you here today. It's going to be an exciting conversation because, you know, my passion is aviation. And when we brought in digital into that, well, my passion is digital and aviation, but we like to bring in perspectives from a lot of different places. And I'm looking forward to bringing your perspective into this conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation. My background is not in aviation. I did a little bit of research on that, but I'm really enthusiastic about blockchain technologies.
Yeah, I know you are, and it shows. Hey, where are you located today?
I'm in Austria. The university is in Vienna, but I'm sitting in Steyr in the middle of Austria because I'm commuting. And Austria is a small country, so.
Very nice. Well, thank you for taking time to join us today. And hey, listen, everybody always likes to start out the broadcast by knowing who you are and what do you do. So can you just give them a quick response to that, please?
Yeah, so I'm the head of the School of International Management at Modul University in Vienna, which is a small private university on top of a nice mountain in Vienna. So we are overlooking the city. And what I'm doing day in and day out, I'm teaching and researching the impact of blockchain technologies.
Excellent. That's really good. Perfect setup for the conversation. Hey, I always like to try to engage our audience, Horst. And so let me just talk to them for a minute, is that we really like to have you share this stream. If you're watching today, would you please help us out and share this stream? I know there's a lot of you that want to hear about the future of blockchain. And so help your friends and your business colleagues by sharing the stream. And then also, if you're watching today, you know that I always like to know where people are watching from. So there's a comment box down below. And if you would just put a comment in there and tell me where you're located, we'll give you, a little shout out on the screen. And it's always fun, to be able to do that. Also, we'd like to have some questions get asked during the broadcast. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the comment box as well. And during the broadcast, we'll bring them up and we'll see if we can give a really hard one to Horst and see maybe if we can stump him or something like that. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, well, very good. Well, listen, Horst, while we got people checking in and things like that and letting us know where they are, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about, tell the viewers a little bit about your background and really your journey and what brought you to where you are today. That's always interesting for us to find that out about people.
Yeah, many years ago, I did my PhD in e-commerce. And so an important topic for me was also payments. And I was a little bit familiar with the work of David Chaum, DigiCash and WideEye, B-Money and those kind of things. So the first time I heard about Bitcoin was most likely around 2010 or something like that. But honestly, I did not get it. The only thing I saw that finally they solved the problem of transferring value peer-to-peer. And I thought for me, it doesn't make much of a difference. Maybe I can save 1 or more percentage points and that's basically it. But I didn't see the big picture. And the big picture was, for example, now we have a system that allows for financial inclusion, and we have basically 2 billion people more in the world that could make use of financial services. So it took me a couple of years, and at around 2015, I decided to look at the blockchain topic again, and then I figured out how many opportunities there are actually. And 3 years later, 2 years later, 2017, 2018, there was a blockchain winter where many people were saying there's no use for blockchain at all. But now we have seen that blockchain, we've stood the test of time and we have so many interesting use cases. I'm really happy today to talk with you about some of those and how blockchain could evolve into the future.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I like the fact that you came from industry and you were trying to understand the best application of that technology at the time. And you researched it, you understood it, and you tried to bring it into your world to be able to create efficiencies. And as technology advances, we all need to continue to do that. So I think that's what makes this conversation, so interesting. Yeah. Hey, let me acknowledge a few people. One of my business colleagues is out there, Larry. Larry, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. Larry's out there in Seattle. And let's see, we have somebody that's joined us actually from Somalia. That's fantastic. It looks like we have an airplane in the background there too. Can't quite make out exactly what it is. But anyway, I'm glad to have you with us, Hassan. I appreciate it. And if you're out there watching, check in with us and let us know where you're watching from. Hey, Horst, let's... we have a couple more people that keep checking in. Let me just recognize a couple more. We have Kamal here that has joined us from Dubai, and he's one of your neighbors to the south, I guess, down there. Not very close, but I'm glad to have you with us today. And if you're out there, just keep checking in, and we'll keep acknowledging people during the broadcast. Hey, Horst, let's kick off the conversation here today. And the topic for today was to focus on the future of blockchain. Now, I know that that's a challenging thing. I mean, how do you even, predict the future or research the possibilities in the future? And so I'd really like to get your thoughts on that. And I know you've prepared a couple of slides that would help us to sort of think through that. So maybe you could walk us through this and just give us what your thoughts are.
Yeah, Mark, do you know this saying, it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future?
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very famous one. I mean, not sure Oscar Wilde, maybe Yogi Berra or a Danish proverb, but I did some research on predictions in the past, and I always figured it's really hard if just one person comes around and says, I'm going to tell you the future. And there is, in fact, a technique in academia and also in the industry to do that. And coincidentally, I wrote a paper about blockchain scenarios for Bitcoin, because you cannot predict blockchain. It's much too complex. Just take one use case or the other and then make predictions about the future. And what scenario technique basically does, it compiles knowledge from different people, and then you can come up with the most positive thing that can happen and the most negative, and you can create trend scenarios. So I'm always very hesitant that to say that I know what's the future going to be, but the best way to do this is to ask many people and to use scenario technique to come up with something. And again, if anyone is interested, I'm always happy to share my publications. And if anyone wants to see what I wrote on the future of Bitcoin, what that could potentially be, that's an open access journal. If you could move on to the next slide. Another very important thing I need to clarify, if somebody tunes in for the first time, and hopefully not, because your broadcast is really a treasure trove of information. But if somebody doesn't know what blockchain is, and he or she might be really confused because we are talking about so many different use cases. On the left, you will see consumers or travelers making payments or participating in loyalty programs. So here we have B2C applications. Then on the right, something you covered in this broadcast is traffic management, data from airplanes, for example. Then we have digital identity, giving travelers the opportunity to check in. And then we have supply chain management. And on top of that, you can use blockchain to make investments. So if somebody hears this for the first time here, she says, what's this weird thing that's called blockchain? And in fact, there is no one blockchain solution. Blockchain is a collection of very complex technologies under the hood. And there are many different blockchain solutions. So if we talk about the future, we need to clearly differentiate which kind of use case we are discussing. So on the next slide, you will see 3 different perspectives. So we can talk about the technology. And of course, I'm going to give you my opinion saying where it's going to evolve. But we should not forget legislation, because we can come up with a great use case, but then maybe it's illegal. We found out it's just not possible because it's against the law. Or we always can come up with some nice, let's say, supply chain use cases for blockchain, and then we figure out it's not good for some business partners. So there are some showstoppers here, and we always need to consider different perspectives when making scenarios of future predictions. And this is something that I wanted to mention right in the beginning. So we need to be focused and make it clear what kind of use case, what kind of blockchain technology, and what kind of perspective we are using.
Yeah, Horst, I really, when we had some early conversations, it really hit home to me when you said that, because you told me, you said we can't use the term Web3 and generically blockchain to say everything, okay? Because when you're looking at blockchain and finance and the regulatory agencies and how the SEC in the US, regulates that, and we look at, aviation, and we look at maybe manufacturers, or we look at small businesses, everything is so diverse, and the use cases and the requirements are so diverse that, we find ourselves lumping all that into one category, saying blockchain. And then what you're saying is, wow, that's really hard, because if you do that, it's almost impossible now to predict the future outcome of every one of those paths at that point.
Definitely. That's my point. So if you ask me, will blockchain help to increase revenue? Then I'm going to ask you, what kind of blockchain solution are you talking about? Are you talking about loyalty? And you discussed NFTs many times in this broadcast, or are you talking about some supply chain solution, which is completely different? So let's make it clear what we are talking about. And this is also important for the people out there to understand there are many different blockchain solutions.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can probably take that slide down for a second. And then what I want to do is I just want to give a shout out to a few more people that are watching. People keep watching out there. And I don't know if you know Hassan, but I guess we acknowledged him in Somalia already. So that's great. We really appreciate it. And Kamal gave you a shout out. I always like it when people are trying to connect with us. I really appreciate it, Kamal. And let's see, we have Junior there, who's coming to us from South Africa. Thanks. It's great to have you joining us. We have Anazita, who's in Romania, and Anazita joins us on a regular basis. I see her out there watching, and she asks us good, insightful questions. I really appreciate that. All the followers out there, I really appreciate you following, because we've really begun to develop a community of people that are interested in common areas, interested in aviation, and how do we create efficiencies in aviation. And one way that we can do that is through blockchain. And so that's why I've, worked so hard to pull together these conversations. So Horst, our next kind of section here that we wanted to sort of focus on is that what are really the ingredients of blockchain? So now we've said, hey, we got to consider these things separately and differently. Now give us some of your thoughts on sort of the core elements of blockchain, I guess.
Yes. And again, I need to make it clear, because there's so much confusion. Even in the class I'm teaching, after teaching one semester blockchain, I had students, for example, in the last unit coming up and saying, so Bitcoin was the first blockchain solution, and now we have many more advanced solutions out there. And I'm saying that's not exactly true. So what I did, I bought myself a Lamborghini, and here it is. And yeah, I need to clarify a couple of things. And for today, I also got myself a tractor here. And so I'm going to ask you, which one is the better vehicle? And of course, yeah.
Yeah, some of us know that story though about the tractor and the Lamborghini. Which one's the better vehicle? Yeah, so I guess it depends upon what you're going to use it for, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's what my main point here, because Bitcoin was a very, you could say, simplistic version. It was a work of genius, but you mentioned it in your broadcast. It does not allow for sophisticated smart contracts. But guess what? For example, Solana had outages a couple of times this year. So which one is the better solution? I'm not saying it's either Bitcoin or Solana, but Bitcoin is very good at what it's doing. It's a settlement system. It's very robust. And of course, I cannot use the Lamborghini. I would say Lamborghini is most likely also very secure. But in blockchain, we have so many new systems coming up, and chances are they have growing pains. I mean, Ethereum had the DAO hack back in 2016, and that was a huge blow for the community, but it turned out to be resilient. So we have many different blockchain applications, and we have many different use cases out there. And if you bring up the next slide, you will see a very famous trade-off. That's called the blockchain trilemma. And I think it came from Vitalik Buterin, from one of the co-founders of Ethereum. And he said, we have basically three important goals that we want to achieve, but we cannot achieve all of them simultaneously. So we want to have a system that's secure, but we also want to have it decentralized. So the more decentralized it is, it also means the more attacks you can have. And you want to make it scalable. So you want to process many transactions at a time. And this is a trilemma. So you cannot achieve one without giving up on the other. I know that some people out there are saying we have solved the trilemma, but I have not seen the perfect solution yet. It's like cars. If you want to plow your field, you don't use the Lamborghini. If you want to be fast, you don't use the tractor. And on the next slide, you will see that in reality, the situation is much more complicated. I know this one is hard to read. That's from a paper from colleagues of mine from Karlsruhe, and they are giving you many more dilemmas between different features. For example, in the top row, you see block size and transaction fee. So if block sizes are getting bigger, then transaction fees are going down. So you have to consider how big a block size could be, but that could lead to more congestion, and it could make it impossible for the ordinary user to participate. And so there's not one blockchain solution, but many solutions out there, and we need to find the best solution for the best use case. And don't forget, they are under development, most of them.
Yeah. So Horst, I want to ask you a question at this point. I know that you teach this subject to students. And so I know people are thinking right now, wow, this is very complicated. And, I have a wide variety of people that are involved in watching these broadcasts, people that have just now been introduced to blockchain over the last couple of months. And I have people like yourself and others that are longtime experts and developers and are developing complex, applications. How can people best learn about blockchain? I mean, how can they go forward and learn some of these things that you're talking about today?
Yeah, if you don't have a background in computer science, you can still be an end user. And in one of your broadcasts, you gave a tutorial or gave a tutorial on how to buy NFTs. By the way, I also did some NFTs for a children's hospital here in Austria, and I also have an NFT tutorial online. So if somebody wants to buy an NFT and make a donation to a hospital, and all the proceeds go to the hospital, I don't get anything, the university doesn't get anything, then you can find my video on YouTube or send me an email. And that's the best way to get started. If you're in marketing, if you have never used blockchain before, if you don't know how to code, it doesn't matter. Do what, I think it was episode 12 or something like that. Do what you can see in the episode where Gabe was showing how to set up the MetaMask wallet and how to get a token. And again, mine are really cheap if you want to use those. And then you get an understanding of what can be done. I initially bought Bitcoin 2015 or something like that to make a transaction. I didn't buy it as a store of value. I wanted to buy pizza, and guess what? I got it.
You wanted to buy what?
No, I bought a pizza to eat.
Oh, a pizza. Oh, you did.
Pizza, yes. And, I did it in order to better understand blockchain. I wanted to get a wallet. I wanted to get my Bitcoin, and I wanted to make a transaction. After I was finished eating, I went online and checked the Blockchain Explorer. And it's a long journey. You need to spend quite a lot of time in order to better understand what blockchain can do for you, but you need to do it hands-on. If you only see PowerPoint slides and people are telling you blockchain can do this, blockchain can do that, you're getting dizzy. It's really so hard to understand.
Yeah, I really agree with you. We have to do it hands-on because, listen, I've been involved in blockchain for, about 5 years now, much less than what you are, have been. And only the last maybe 2 years looking at cryptocurrency in more detail. And last night, Gabe and I were working on a few complex problems, and he had to explain some things to me because I couldn't figure out how to solve the problem and how to move some cryptocurrency from one place to another across a chain. And I didn't know which bridge to use. And, and so it can be complicated and difficult. And I couldn't agree with you more. You need to just get in and get involved and do hands-on, because that's the very best way that we can understand these things without question. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's totally inspirational. I just edited a book together with Mary Lassity from the University of Arkansas. And I was reading all those chapters in the book. And at one point in time, I was reading about Web3 and the metaverse and gambling, and all of a sudden, when I was reading this chapter, I had a feeling, wait a second, this is about supply chain management in a way, because in gambling nowadays, you have those in-game items, and they need to be, you need to trade them between peer-to-peer. And in supply chain management, it's basically the same thing. You digitize something, you have some digital twin, and then you also need to move it around. So you learn a lot by seeing what other industries are doing. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, let's not promote gambling to be able to learn blockchain, though.
It was not directly gambling. It was using some kind of metaverse application.
Yeah, it's just a joke, Horst.
Yeah, but it's the same thing what you're doing with your NFTs. You're transferring value, and this is what makes it confusing for people. Are you talking now about a donation for a children's hospital or buying some aviator peeps or playing a game. It's all the same. It's a transfer of value. How can we accomplish that? And that's
Yeah,
the weird thing
absolutely. I
about
couldn't
it.
agree more. Yeah. Hey, let's go to the third slide in this group talking about the ingredients of blockchain. Maybe you can help us kind of understand what your thoughts were on this.
Yeah, you can see I like pyramids. On the lowest level, you have blockchain components. And this is something that's kind of confusing because there are many ingenious people out there who are constantly developing them. And in the very last row, I've seen those, I've listed those consensus algorithms. And, the first one, of course, is proof of work, and many people have misconceptions about it. I got a couple of academic papers and funding applications rejected because the reviewers are saying blockchain uses so much energy. And in fact, I was proposing a private permission solution that doesn't use that much energy, but there's all this confusion around. So there are different ways to reach consensus. Proof of stake you've mentioned in your broadcast, delegated proof of stake, proof of capacity, proof of elapsed time, proof of authority. I could go on. And there are people out there developing new consensus mechanisms right at the moment. And then we have encryption, smart contracts, and all those technical details. There's a lot of going on in the space, but this is under the hood. And for us as business people or anyone in the industry needs to understand the properties that come out of that. So that would be the next layer. So we have shared data access. This is something why blockchain can be so useful for supply chain management, because it enables people or organizations to look at the same data at the same time in real time. We have data that's immutable. We can achieve performance increases. We have better security probably. And these are the features the business people need to understand. And if you get these features, then you can think about the business cases that come out of that. And since the topic of today is the future, I would recommend that everybody who gets into blockchain learns about these features, and then you can be creative. Then you can come up with those future applications.
Yeah, Horst, you've hit exactly on what I've been trying to do in this entire series. Thank you. Maybe we should just end the broadcast right now. Is that what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to tell people is that how do you know what to do if you don't even know what the possibilities are? And so one of the fundamental things that we need to do when we're exploring any new ideas or directions is we need to understand the business case, or not the business case. We need to understand the business challenge that we have. All right. So what's the challenge that we have out there? We need to think about and understand the technology and the possible solutions. And then we can begin to put those things together to create, potential solutions for the future. So understanding our business challenge, understanding what technology might exist out there, and then our brains, we bring these things together, very creatively and innovatively to be able to solve, those problems in the future. So knowing and understanding what the options and alternatives are is a critical part of innovation.
Definitely. You just nailed it. And again, I came up with many of the use cases that we see now about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was not sure if they would work out. Some have worked out, others maybe not yet, but there are so many opportunities out there. Have you ever talked about, for example, blockchain-based insurance?
Yeah, no, we haven't brought it up. We've talked about securities and we've talked about equity and capital fundraising and, but not insurance. No, what are the thoughts on that?
Yeah. Flight insurance, for example, it would be very convenient for me. I'm an infrequent traveler, and it would be very convenient for me to have some kind of flight insurance. And if there is a delay, then I get paid immediately and in cryptocurrency. So I don't want to bother with dealing with insurance companies. And actually, there are solutions out there. Do you know that AXA has made a solution like that, blockchain-based insurance? But they gave it up, I think, in 2019. And do you know that the proverb, the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's really it. And we had this. I had so many companies. Like if you think back on one of the early guests I had on the show, they were with Dubai Air Navigation Services, and they had examined blockchain about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and they were trying to look at how they might be able to implement blockchain-based air navigation data. And they basically put things on hold because maybe it wasn't advancing, or the demand wasn't there, or maybe it was too hard. And so that's exactly what you're saying, is that now what we're seeing is a resurgence of people interested in looking at these things because technology is advanced and the interest in it is advanced. I mean, is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm basically saying some use cases are really straightforward. Right from the beginning, we had supply chain management and many people working on that. But what I'm saying with the mouse and the cheese, there were other use cases like flight insurance that were not as straightforward. So some people were trying it out. It didn't work. Not for technical reasons. I think it was the legal side. And we have companies like EtherRisk. And I recently came across a Nigerian company that's, I just need to look up, AeroPay. And apparently they're working on the same solutions. And so that's an opportunity for startups in the field, because apparently the first time it didn't work, but it doesn't mean that it never has to work. And there are many issues to overcome. For example, you also mentioned the Oracle problem in blockchain. So Oracle means data from the outside. So in this case, flight insurance, it's a very straightforward case. Who determines if a plane is late? And that's the Oracle, feeding into information on the blockchain. But again, an opportunity for the future out there. If somebody comes up with a really nice blockchain-based flight insurance where I don't have to deal with insurance companies, but the plane lands and I'm getting paid in cryptocurrency without doing anything, that would be a nice use case.
Yeah, I just think there's so many different possibilities. It's so hard to predict the future, what you just said, early at the beginning of the program. I think we have a slide we wanted to throw up real quick. And I know that in the past, you had done some work to try to, I guess we'll say, predict, the future of blockchain in aviation. Can you talk to us about that a little bit and what your thoughts were and then where things went from there?
Yeah, that's a paper that I co-authored, and I have to give credits to the main authors, Daniel Pinto Lopez and Paulo Rita from Portugal. And what we did in this paper, the data was actually collected by Daniel, I think in 2019. Academia, everything takes too long. It was published in 2021. So back in 2019, Daniel went out and was interviewing aviation experts. And you can see how many of those ideas they had back then have materialized. And many of those you have covered in this broadcast. And of course, we could go down the list, but I think it's just important to mention that almost everything that's in here has been materialized in one way or the other. At the end, for example, you see a couple of people saying blockchain is not for us. There's no need for doing that. Maybe they've changed their mind in the meantime. And what you discussed in this broadcast, especially with NFTs, opens so many new gates for new ideas and revenue models. That's kind of amazing. So, and that was just 3 years ago. And 3 years in the future, I assume we will have completely new systems, and also regulation will need to change to make some of those B2C business cases possible.
It's so hard to predict. It just is. Horst, in 1995, I worked at a company and we were getting ready to distribute large volumes of data for maintenance manuals on the internet. And the problem was that, of course, bandwidths were very small. We had dial-up connections and things like that. And one of my business colleagues told me, he said, there will never be an internet used in the world for business.
I know back in 1999 or something like that, people used to call the World Wide Web worldwide wait because the data was coming in so slowly, and some people predicted it's never going to work on a big scale. So I'm very cautious with these predictions. And for example, 1999, Jeff Bezos was the person of the year at the Time magazine. But in 2003, it was the first time Amazon was making a profit. So in those times, it was not even clear if they would make it. So there are so many things that come into play, contingency factors, but I'm really very enthusiastic about what kind of blockchain-based applications have materialized in the last 2 or 3 years in the aviation industry.
Yeah. Now, Horst, if I were to ask you, is that what's your best advice for people, trying to figure out where they go and what they do in the evaluation of Web3 and blockchain for possible applications in the future? What's your best advice for people?
Yeah, get your hands dirty. Try out some applications. That's number one. Try to understand as much as possible as far as technology is concerned. Look at other industries, what they are doing, and also get into contact with some experts, consultants that can inspire you, and just to figure out if blockchain fits into your business model. It's not the case that blockchain is a silver bullet and is the number one solution for everything, but in this podcast or in this broadcast alone, you have brought up so many ideas that are already working. And I think that every company in the industry should explore at least what kind of opportunities blockchain has. But in order to do that, you need to find the right people, or you need to try it out yourself.
Yeah, certainly at a bare minimum, any business that's conducting business out there today needs to understand digital currency. Now, I'm not saying exactly where, digital currency is going in the future, but, if we ignore that, your business is going to miss an entire opportunity to be able to leverage, liquidity, in your business. And if we look at other finance applications, certainly there are valuable opportunities there. I don't think that we want to miss the opportunity to leverage, NFTs. We talked in one of our episodes about how, Treiblmaier is a company that's implementing airline tickets on NFTs. We talked to somebody the other day that's using records, NFTs for aircraft records. So there's just so many different opportunities. And if we don't consider those things in our business, we're going to fall behind, very rapidly. And so, one of the biggest things that I advise people to do is two things. Is that number one, exactly what you said. Don't try to do this all on your own. Leverage the knowledge of those that have gone before you and use that experience to be able to make it easier on yourself and to go faster than what you would be able to otherwise. So why recreate everything on your own? Number one. And number two is that, try some new things out. Just don't be afraid to get in and get a wallet and maybe, get some digital currency and buy an NFT, if you're in that world. And if you're in the world of looking at blockchain for business applications, I've worked with team after team after team, many teams who are looking at problems like supply chain, who are looking at problems like records management and looking at warranty and, parts track and trace. And how do we improve data and analytics by using broader platforms of data on blockchain platforms. So there's many things that are going on out there today. And if you just begin to take down a little piece of it one at a time, while are looking at your bigger business challenge that you have and where you can apply these technologies, you'll begin to put together pieces of the puzzle. It doesn't have to happen all at once. So I know that we can move forward and do this. And it's together as a community and leveraging the knowledge of people that we can do this. Horst, what do you think?
Absolutely. I was so enthusiastic when I saw your NFTs, the Aviator Peeps, because you're doing exactly the right thing. When those NFTs were coming up a year or 2 years ago, I was kind of curious how long people would be willing to pay just for some JPEGs. And somebody bought the first Twitter tweet for 2.9 million USD, and then it dropped to 280 USD. So nobody wanted to buy that. So you need to create some utility. And just to show you how important it is, a couple of months ago, there was the Champions League final. I'm not sure if you're interested in soccer. And it was between, I think, Madrid and Liverpool. It was in Paris, but many people had fake tickets. So what happened? There was a riot in front of the stadium, and they were even using tear gas, and the whole game was delayed. And I thought, that's an application for an NFT. Make it a ticket. And I was searching around and found that Ed Sheeran, the rock musician, was using NFTs for his concert in Wembley Stadium. So if you want to avoid a mess, use an NFT. And what you're doing with your Aviator Peeps is the right thing, because you're giving some extra utility and you're giving access to some content. And the thing is that in the future, if you come up with new ideas on what to offer people, you can still do this with the existing NFTs. So if somebody goes to a show, for example, or takes a flight, then later on you can make an airdrop and give them something or make a raffle just because you found no opportunities to improve on that. And this is something very exciting. And
now, one of the things that's nice about an ERC 721 token, a utility NFT token, is that we can repurpose it for different things, just like what you said. That's absolutely correct. Yeah,
absolutely. And by the way, I think you have not mentioned Chain for Travel yet. That's a platform. Do you know Chain for Travel?
I don't know.
Yeah. Disclosure, I'm not part of this company, but I know the head of business development, and it's written Chain and the number 4 and then Travel, so everybody can check it out. They're creating a layer 1 blockchain solution. They're using proof of authority, which means they are not using much energy, but it's a dedicated circle that's making the decision. And they came up with a lot of use cases also for the airline industry, in-flight purchases, also NFTs. So that there's some kind of overlap, and this is something you might want to check out because they're also very active in the space, and the team comes from the travel industry.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So listen, everybody, this series that we've done over the last 8 weeks, actually, we did 24 episodes. This is the conclusion, episode 24. And, the main reason that we did this is that we wanted to advance the conversation around blockchain and Web3, in aviation. And one thing is for certain, we've definitely done that. I brought together, many different companies and many different ideas and solutions and use cases. We've provided some foundational information for you to help you to be able to better understand Web3 and blockchain. And certainly I've had many, many people reaching out to me and saying, how do I learn more? I've had people that have come on and said, hey, I'd like to teach people. Can I be involved somehow and teach people? And so there's just been so many ways that people have reached out to me. And my main goal and objective was to advance the conversation around blockchain in aviation. And clearly, we've been able to accomplish that as part of that. Yeah. Hey, one more thing I want to say is upcoming this fall, I actually am going to be speaking at a number of different conferences. And so you can keep an eye out for LinkedIn and the things that I'll be doing out there. I have some webinars that I'm helping with. And much of this has come out of people reaching out to me and saying, we want to add this topic of conversation to our conference, or we want to add this to our webinar. I had a school reach out to me a couple of weeks ago and say, we have a Web3 blockchain training program that we have, and we'd like to have you come and just speak about what you're doing, because we think it's interesting that there are new fields like aviation that need to be learning this. And they said, we think that there may be people in aviation that want to come to our training program. And so they said, would you just speak to people? And I said, yes. So it's amazing to see how much conversation there's been around this topic. So I want to invite you to continue to join us. I think we have a banner that shows the first conference I'll be speaking at in a couple of weeks. It's in Miami. Yeah, there it is. At the Aircraft IT, and I'll be speaking on day one, September 13th at looks like 16:15 Eastern time. There. And the conversation is going to be around blockchain and Web3 and aviation. So if you're going to be at the Aircraft IT conference, certainly come and join our presentation, because I'm hoping that we'll continue this valuable knowledge and conversation, and share some of the things that we've learned, from that. So thank you. Hey, Horst, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It was really a wonderful conversation, here today.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. This is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, I have so many ideas, and it's really hard to fit them in. But I have to say, it's really wonderful what you did because usually somebody would say blockchain in aviation. Yeah, I'm giving you a 20-minute slot, and then you discuss everything. But I've already watched 15 episodes or so, and I've also learned a lot about the aviation industry. And I can really encourage everyone who wants to get a better understanding what's possible to go through your broadcasts.
Very good. Thank you. Hey, let's throw that slide up in case people want to watch the replays. We broadcast simultaneously to, platforms everywhere. And so you can go watch the replays in a lot of places, but let me just make a recommendation. YouTube seems to be the easiest place to go and to follow the history of it. On LinkedIn, you have to search back on the feed and look for it. But if you go to YouTube there at DigitalAircraft 1, you'll find our broadcasts are all posted out there, and you can watch the replays and you can catch up on some of those things. We're also going to have those in our portal. Our portal is actually available now. And I've actually had it for a couple of years. We're just expanding it, and we're putting in things like the blockchain series. But best place to go to watch replays is on these locations here. So everybody, thank you for joining this series. And I really I want to tell you, Horst, and everybody else who's been part of it is that by having a community of people that are willing to share knowledge. Listen, I learned this when I went through an executive MBA program. I knew this before, but one of the things they taught us when I went to my executive MBA program at the University of Denver in Colorado, they said that we can have greater knowledge and synergy by working with a team and sharing the knowledge with one another. It's a proven fact that we can achieve more if we're leveraging the knowledge of a team and bringing it together than if we try to do everything by ourselves. And so, I'm really encouraging those of you that are out there watching is to continue to move forward in this topic, in this conversation. We're going to be doing audio chats. We're going to be doing additional conversations. I'm going to have more broadcasts. I've continued to have people that have reached out to me. I had somebody reach out last night that's a founder of a company who's using blockchain in aviation. And he said, can I come on the broadcast? And I said, well, it ends tomorrow, but I'll get you at another time. So we're going to continue to do that. If you're interested in being involved in a conversation like this, reach out to me on my email address there on the screen, and I'll see if we can't, together help to move the conversation about blockchain forward. Horst, thank you for being part of the community, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you once more, Mark, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Very good. Hey, everybody, I always sign off at the end and say fair winds and following seas to you, and have a great day. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing you on our next broadcast. Bye for now.